you're going into Furiosa never having watched a Mad Max film, you're in for a really wild ride because this is one of the wildest blockbusters that you're ever going to see. This film is a lot more nuanced when it comes to building this world, showing us who these characters are, and establishing what the stakes are. It is absolutely just mind-bending to watch. There's some sequences where you're just like, how do you even pull this off?
You keep hearing the reports about how Anya Taylor-Joy has 30 lines. That's not an issue in this movie. Every single person in this movie delivers a standout performance. Visually, it looks stunning. You get glued to what's happening. I had such a good time that if they make another movie, I would gladly be in theaters watching it, especially in IMAX.
A lot of the expectation going into a movie like this is it going to be like Fury Road? It is and it isn't. It is not the movie that you expect it to be. Chris Hemsworth is someone that he is the villain, but there is also a part of him that you want to learn more about. I want more of this world. I want more of this storytelling. Furiosa stands out. It's an immaculate movie to watch.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me in the Wasteland, it's Shahbaz.
Hello.
And Anthony.
Hello, everyone.
We have been waiting quite a long time for a follow-up to Fury Road, and we are finally here talking about Furiosa, which had its debut at the Cannes Film Festival. We were so lucky to watch it here in Toronto, courtesy of our friends at Warner Brothers Pictures. But I'm so excited to dive into all of this. You know, we've, like I was saying, it's been a really long time since the last Mad Max movie, and I think that's what's thrown me off so much, is that it's been almost 10 years. And I think that threw us all for a loop when we were kind of thinking about it again, like, oh my God, it's been almost 10 years since we've spoken about this film. Anthony, how are you feeling coming into another Mad Max film?
Excited. I was shocked when you said it was 10 years. I'm like, man, it felt like it was 5 years or 3 years. It's a movie that's so well made that you think it was just a couple of years ago because it just stands the test of time. But 10 years is crazy. And to see it and to finally go back into this world, I'm super excited to talk about it.
Shay, how about you?
It's an interesting place because kind of like what Anthony's saying, where it feels like it hasn't really been almost 10 years, but you realize, oh my God, it has. I think obviously, you know, the pandemic really throws time for a loop here, but no, I'm excited. I enjoyed Fury Road a lot. A lot of people love that movie. It was such it's hard to even call it a cult classic because it did well across the board in all regards, but there is in all regards
at the awards and everything.
But there is definitely like a cult following to it with this movie. So you know, going back into that world, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little skeptical because the trailers, maybe they weren't lighting me on fire the way that I imagined it would. But I'm definitely excited to talk about this movie, though.
It's crazy to think, though. Luckily, George didn't make his way as long, because when you look at the distance between before Fury Road, Beyond the Thunderdome came out in 1985. So Fury Road was 30 years later. This time he only made his weight 9. Hopefully it's not another decade before the next one, because, you know, George just turned 79, and to be a director of his caliber, to make a movie like this is an achievement in itself. So I'm so excited to dive in with you guys. Of course, this is the Movie Podcast. You can catch brand new episodes and reviews and interviews on all the latest movies and series all throughout the week. We have some incredible interviews out right now with the cast of The Boys. So if you're really looking forward to season 4, go get your fix right now, either on YouTube or on our podcast feed. Wherever you are, we're so happy that you're here. Give us 5 stars, consider subscribing, and if you have an extra couple bucks to toss our way, consider joining us on Patreon for some exclusive content. Now, we have our show notes down below. You can join our Discord. We're going to have a room open to talk all about Furiosa, so you could dive into there. We also have our spoiler rooms open for X-Men. Still for Oppenheimer. I don't think that room's ever going to close. Shay's going to keep that room open forever. It's going to go on
forever. The key is open for that room. Absolutely.
It will stay open forever. But let's switch gears, pun intended, to Furiosa. This film is going to be releasing in theaters on May 23rd by Warner Brothers Pictures. And again, thank you to them for inviting us to watch the film. They are doing a really big event here in Toronto, so we're so excited to see how that shapes up, with George coming as well. So that's going to be awesome. Of course, this film stars Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa and Chris Hemsworth as Dementus. Like, this is a very different role for Chris Hemsworth, so I'm really I'm really excited to talk more about him. But Anthony, I'd love for you to start us off. Give us your first reactions to Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
I can't believe he's 79. George Miller, just to hear that he's 79 making these types of movies, it's fantastic, because a lot of times when you are a director and you get to a certain age, your movies start to not replicate what you've done in the past, right? Like, you can look at Coppola, or you can look at Spielberg. They're just certain different types of filmmaking that just doesn't transition. But with George Miller, he has a style and a look that he's taken throughout his catalog of films and continues doing it. And that's where Furiosa just stands out. It's just an immaculate movie to watch. And I think a lot of the expectation going into a movie like this is it going to be like Fury Road? Is this the transcending movie for that film? And it is and it isn't. It is not the movie that you expect it to be. With Fury Road, it was just, you dive into large explosions, action, every single scene. It's like an orchestra of craziness happening on the screen. And you get that in this film, but you also get a lot more story. You got a lot more lore. And that's what I enjoyed about it. Because with the Mad Max franchise, you're kind of just thrown into it. You just don't know how this world got to where it is. And with Furiosa, you learn about more of this character that you fell in love with Fury Road. And George gives her a lot more to do in this movie. There's a lot more story with her when it comes to where she came from and how she got to where she got in Fury Road. And I love that. I love the lore. And I think if he is to ever do more movies like this, to include more lore, because this is a franchise that, there's so much time that spanned from, the Thunderdome 1985, you said, Daniel, to Fury Road. And like, there is so much.
And that was the third one. So
that was the third one.
That was the third one. So before that, we had like the original Mad Max that came out. Oh my gosh, that one came out all the way back in 1979.
Yeah.
So it was 1979, 1981, 1985, and then fast forward 30 years, we're back here.
And there's a huge pause. And like, what I learned from this film is I want more of this world. I want more of this type of storytelling. And I love these characters that he brings on screen. I think they're fantastic. They're interesting. They have, emotional depth. Chris Hemsworth is someone that he is the villain, but there is also a part of him that you want to learn more about. Like, he has a past that led him to becoming a villain, and you'll see it with the teddy bears and his idea of his story about why he has those bears. The idea, the whole Fury Road truck sequences that you remember you're going to get in this film. And there are some really good one-take shots that you're just going to be like, wow, they must have spent a lot of time orchestrating everything that's happening. And score is fantastic. Visuals are fantastic. Performances are fantastic. It's a wacky, crazy world. It's not the most approachable thing that everyone can access. But I think if you open your mind and just say, hey, this is something that we haven't experienced, a dystopian world that's strictly, I want to say it's very Australian, right? It's very something that they created.
It is, yeah.
And that is so different than all the other dystopian films that we've had. The way the characters look with their metal jackets and vests and just their type of dialogue, it just works. And I love this story. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think it's the best action movie this year.
What's so funny is that I think I want to jump off from where you said it's approachability, because if you're going into Furiosa never having watched a Mad Max film, you're in for a really wild ride, because this is one of the wildest and weirdest blockbusters that you're ever going to see. This is a world where characters are named like Immortan Joe and Dementus and Furiosa and the People Eater. Like, there are really weird people in this world, but you also just can't help but just be like, it fits this. I'm going along for this ride, and you're just going on this journey.
If you just watched Queen's Gambit and you're like, oh, I want to see what Anya Taylor-Joy is up to next, this might not be it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is very strange. So if this is your first, Mad Max film, just ready yourself. Ready yourself. If you're like, okay, this is a prequel to Fury Road, I'll watch this one first before we go into Fury Road. Maybe check out Fury Road first, just so you could get an idea of what this world is all about.
Gives you so much more context to Fury Road, this story. You'll understand that sequence when Charlize Theron falls to the ground in the desert and on the dune, and she just has that moment of like crying and she's just yelling. You'll understand why, because of what happens to her in this story. So it just adds more context to watch Fury Road first and then go into Furiosa.
Yeah, and then obviously this isn't a spoiler either, but even in the credits, the end credits, you see footage from Mad Max Fury Road. So I think go in having watched Fury Road so you get an idea of what this world is all about. But when we were seated and we were going into this, and we've been so lucky this year to get some really incredible films. And I think back to Dune, when we were sitting there watching Dune, like, okay, this is like that. This is why we go to the movies. And we kept thinking, Mad Max is going to be that next one, because I don't think anyone expected, like Shay was saying earlier, I don't think anyone expected Fury Road to be not just, the box office hit that it was, because, Mad Max films have always done well at the box office, but to have the awards love that it got, and that was such a pinnacle year at the Oscars when it just started winning so many things, and we're like, oh, wow, this is incredible. This is so well deserving. And, going into Furiosa and knowing that Anya Taylor-Joy was, taking the helm, and she was going to be, the young Charlize Theron, she's going to be young Furiosa. This is her film, and it takes a little while to get to her, but everything leading up to, Anya, becoming Furiosa, like Anthony said, you just get really lost in the lore of this world. And this isn't, the pedal to the floor movie that Fury Road was, and I think it's better for it. This film is a lot more nuanced when it comes to building this world, showing us who these characters are, and establishing what the stakes are happening. And when we do get to the action, because there's a lot of action, it is really over the top. It is absolutely just mind-bending to watch. There's some sequences where you're just like, how do you even pull this off? And I think that's what's so fun about watching a movie like Furiosa, where you're sitting in your seat and you're just like, man, like, this must have been either the most fun movie to make or the most brutal, labor-intensive movie to make, because every moment, every movement of the camera and these cars in the sand and these explosions feels so intricate and so detailed and so particular. So it's just been really fun to get lost in this world. But Shay, please jump on in. We'd love for you to give us your first reactions to Furiosa. Then we'll open it up to more of the different technical aspects of the film.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, when we talk about a movie like Furiosa, we're talking about a film, like you guys have all said, that is just technically another achievement in filmmaking. I think there's so many good things that Furiosa does, but I think that there's some things that, again, Fury Road did a lot better. And I think the first thing that I kind of want to start with there is pacing and also length. Furiosa is clocking in at about 2.5 hours, which, some movies, perfect, makes total sense. You look at movies like Oppenheimer, 3 hours, flies right by. Dune Part 2, 2.5 hours, flies right by. There's moments to Furiosa, though, where you really kind of start to feel the pace. And like you mentioned, Daniel, it does take a little bit of time to get to Anya Taylor-Joy. And it actually takes exactly an hour to get to her character, or her specifically. Her character is throughout the film, and Alia Brown does such a phenomenal job of portraying the young Furiosa. I was so enamored by her performance. And again, the way this movie starts, it literally it hits the ground running and it continues to go. But then it starts to slow down a little bit, and then there's moments of just quietness. And again, you keep hearing the reports about how Anya Taylor-Joy has 30 lines. That's not an issue in this movie. This movie is not about the amount of dialogue a character has. It's about that performance that they're delivering. And luckily, every single person in this movie delivers a standout performance. There isn't, I was writing my reaction tweet about it, and I ended up listing the entire cast. It's just that good of a movie in terms of performance. But when you're looking at, again, the length of the film, I think that's where it starts to kind of suffer, because the pacing of the film can be kind of, throwing you off a little bit. I really start to feel the length of it towards the end. I was like, okay, I feel like we can start to wrap this up a lot sooner. Now, talk about some of the more positive things about this movie. Visually, it looks stunning. There's a charm to the to the CG that occurs in this movie. There's a charm to the rubber band effects that these characters kind of get launched into different things. It works. It really matches the aesthetic of what this world is trying to be. Again, the performances are really damn good. The score also, again, is just really epic. I think the best way I can kind of say it is that a lot of the stuff in this movie, like the lore and the characters, I think on paper for me, if you had told me what this is, I don't think I would have been as excited. Like if I didn't know anything about Mad Max or Fury Road or anything, I'd be hearing it and I'd be like, oh, I don't know if this is the kind of movie for me. Just, judging a book by its cover.
I'm sorry, Shay. You don't like characters named Rictus Erectus?
I don't
really?
like people named after me. Like that, I just don't understand why. Like I coined that name for myself. How dare you? Like, where's my check? I think that's kind of what I'm wondering.
It's true. You're very right. You're very right.
But it's such a simple thing on paper. But when you watch this film, the best, I guess, compliment that I can give is it is so damn entertaining. You kind of just get glued to what's happening. You even though you know what's going to happen, you still have no idea really how it's going to play out. And I think that's the beauty of George Miller's directing. There's a lot of curveballs that can be thrown, yet we may end up in the exact same place that you think you're going to be going to. It's the journey that these characters take that really keeps you grossed. And again, the connections between all the characters, their chemistry is fantastic. I think George does a really good job of pairing somebody like Chris Hemsworth and Anya Taylor-Joy, two people who I maybe don't think in other movies might work. They work really damn well here together, and they just have a great connection. So, in summary, really damn entertaining film. Could use some shortening. I think this movie could be 2 hours flat. I think you can trim out a lot from the beginning, the middle, the end, and really just make it a lot more crisp of film. But damn, I had such a good time that if they make another movie, if George is lucky enough to make one more, I would gladly be in theaters watching it, especially in IMAX.
I really want to talk about Chris Hemsworth because when we first saw him in the trailer for this film, and we were lucky to see him and Anya Taylor-Joy at CinemaCon, back in April, debuting some footage of this film and what we were going to expect. I think this might be Chris Hemsworth's best performance, or at least his most out there performance, because he is so fun as Dementus in this. And if I could say, like, I wish we had even more of him. Like, this film is very much bookended by him. We have him at the beginning and we have him more towards the end, but I would love for him to be a constant throughout this entire film, because his character is so grotesque and unlikable, but you like how much you don't like him because he just has that presence on screen. And I think his character of Dementus is one of the really highlights of this film. And a lot of the times I think even, overshadowed some of the other characters, even Furiosa in her own film, because he was able to, be so weird and out there. And I know this is maybe a weird leap, but when I think back to a film like The Dark Knight, when everyone thinks about The Dark Knight, they think about Heath Ledger as Joker in that film, who really outshined Batman's performance. And I think a lot could be said the same with Chris Hemsworth in this. Again, I'm not saying his performance is Heath Ledger level, but I'm just saying that when it comes to overshadowing, I think, everybody else, whenever Dementus is on screen, my eyes are glued on whatever he is saying, whatever he is doing, because he's just so fun to watch.
You've seen Chris Hemsworth play Thor, and characters very much like Thor are charming characters. So as an actor, you kind of get stuck as being that type of person. So this is completely different. This is not something we've seen him do. So he is an interesting, weird, quirky character. Kind of looks like a Jesus in a sense when we first meet him, when he turns
Yeah.
around. But you see it, you hear it in his voice. He is a ruthless person who has like empathetic moments where you feel for him, and you have this struggle of like, was he that bad? Was he that good? Or was he ever good? So if they ever do a story on Dr. Dementus, then that's something I'm really down to watch, because Chris Hemsworth did a fantastic, brought so much life to him that I didn't expect from this character.
He was I think his nose also was just really funny to see, and his teeth, and just like hearing Chris Hemsworth do a very distinct Australian accent. We don't like, Chris has a very naturally deep voice, so he's always talking out. He's always talking. So to hear him be like, "And ladies and gentlemen," it's just like it's so cool to see him act and just, really just be fun. And clearly he had a great time doing this because he cannot stop talking about how much he loved working with George and how he wants George to direct every movie that he does next because he had such a kinship with him. So it's lovely to see that. How about Anya Taylor-Joy? Let's talk a little bit more about her performance. She's, I think, great as as a younger Charlize Theron, as Furiosa. I definitely feel like there was a moment in this film, and I was talking to you guys afterwards, that when like Furiosa is talking, saying like, I need a vehicle, it sounds exactly like Charlize Theron because she does like a deeper voice. So I was just like, did they just like add in a line of Charlize, or is this actually Anya just trying to more channel that voice? What did you guys think of Anya? Shay, we'll start with you.
Oh, phenomenal. I think Anya is this actress that anything that she does, I'm always just right there for. I look back to, I think my introduction to her might have been Split. I can't think of anything else really that comes to mind that was before that. And then after that, I think I've been kind of watching everything that she's done. And every time she's in a movie, I'm always in for one of the best performances that I can kind of get from that character. And yeah, she's great. She's so good in this movie. She fits in the shoes of Charlize 100%. I think, one of the things that we were discussing after the film is the trajectory of this character of Furiosa. Does it completely align and match up with what we see in Mad Max Fury Road? I know that was a bit of a discussion that we were having. So I am curious for you guys how you're feeling about that. Because when we were talking about it, we were kind of saying that we're not sure if this 100% connects right away with that character.
Are you talking about kind of where this film ends off, or are you just talking about just how their personalities are?
I guess personalities and how it ends off, like the trajectory of this character into what we see in Fury Road.
I definitely feel like there's a lot of time in between what happens here and before Fury Road, because there's no spoilers for where this film ends, but this film was very much focused on her against Dementus, not the other characters that are surrounding and are the evils, like the Immortan Joe, who is more of the figure in Fury Road that she's trying to take down. So I definitely wish that there was a little bit more of a hatred shown to them, so we know it's like, okay, I have my list of who I'm coming for, like Kill Bill. Dementus is number one, but everyone else, you're on the list. So I purposely did not watch Fury Road before watching this film, so I want to watch it this weekend now and see like how I feel going into it and see more how these feel. But you're totally right. There definitely feels like there's a bit of a perspective switch when it comes to Furiosa and her goals, obviously. But I want to see, now that I've seen Furiosa going into Fury Road, I want to see how that's landing with me a bit more. Anthony, how about you?
When it comes to Anya, I think it's her eyes that really make this her role. Like, it's something about her face and her eyes that just draws you into her characters that she's played on screen. Like, it's always like this thing with her. It's like she has these big eyes and you kind of get lost in them. And when she's playing Furiosa and she's just this gritty, I'm going to destroy everything that's in my way to get my revenge, it just adds more to the character. It's almost like I would rather watch Anya play Furiosa in this world rather than Charlize, because as much as Charlize is great, I think I think Anya did a better job. Just it's the face, it's the head, it's the body movements. Just, I feel like she just dove into this character and just took it and made it her own, even though it's an established character. And when it comes to the time span, there's it's a little bit of a transition, especially when you see how it ends. We don't know what angers her the most, what Immortan Joe did to her to kind of put her on this track. Because Immortan Joe in this is almost like he's an ally in this sense, even though he's not. He recognizes who she is, but there's something missing between the two that put that rivalry and that vengefulness that we see in Fury Road. We miss that in this movie.
It's interesting though, because you look at, naturally I think we're going to lean a lot more towards Anya's portrayal because we're getting her from the younger age and we're seeing what's establishing her, what's building her, and what's driving her as a character. Where when Charlize came in, Charlize felt more like, okay, that's Charlize Theron playing this character. And again, that's no shade to Charlize. She's incredible in Fury Road. But Anya, because she gets to, really build this character from the ground up, and then plus the younger version of herself as well too, we see the world a lot through her eyes. So if this world does continue on, I can't see them doing another prequel before Fury Road. I don't see them doing that. I see them going, jumping either to Charlize coming back or just telling a completely different story. But I definitely think because Anya is playing the younger version, we're getting to see a lot more of like, why is she the way that she is? And I think that's been really cool to see. Another performance that we wanted to talk about that we really enjoyed in this film was what's his name? Tom Burke. Yeah, Tom Burke, who has not of a larger role as we'd hope, but he is really great in this film in the moments that he is in it. Shay, what do you think of Mr. Burke? Mr.
Burke is fantastic. I mean, I think the only thing I've really ever seen him in is Mank. He did a great Orson Welles, which is a huge, again, another like big shoe kind of role to fill in. When he popped up on screen, I think we all kind of had the same feeling. We're like, oh, this is giving us Mel Gibson and Mad Max kind of vibes,
100%,
like the
100%.
slick back kind of like 80s looking hair. There's just so much about it that we're like, okay, like who is this guy? Should we trust him? Tom Burke killed it, man. Like I felt just so interested in this character that I'm like, you know what? I'll take a movie about him even. Like I'm totally down for whatever he does next, because it's just a very grounded character. He's there to help Furiosa, and everything just feels very genuine. He doesn't seem like, oh, like this guy's sketch. No, the whole time I'm like, this guy's gonna help out. Like he seems like a pretty cool dude. And Tom Burke sells it with the sincerity of his performance.
I second that. I think his face, if I can go back in time and switch him out for Tom Hardy, I'd probably pick him, just because he has the face for that world, where Tom Hardy felt, out of all the characters, the most disconnected, because he doesn't look like he belongs in that world. And I don't know why. Maybe because it's just the way Tom Hardy looked, like as
handsome man.
It's not that
he has almost like, he's like almost like I'm not seeing a phone, but like I know what a phone is, kind of a face.
Yeah, he just stands out from everyone in Fury Road. Well, this guy Tom, who comes in as, what's his name? Pretorius Jack?
Pretorius Jack.
Yeah.
He looks like the character, because when you think of Mad Max, you think of Mel Gibson, and he very much looks like Mel Gibson because of his body type, his hair type, his face type. And he looks also, I don't know if he's Australian. He looks Australian. He looks like he's just part of that world. And I when I saw him, I'm like, man, I wish I got more of his character in this movie, because he does it so well. And whoever is the casting agent for the casting director for this movie, fantastic job, because everyone who's a part of this film just fits the part, looks the part, plays the part so well.
Well, I don't think it's for next year's Oscars, but I think in a couple years there will be an Oscar for casting. So, well, maybe for the next Mad Max.
He is English, by the way.
He is English, yeah. So I just wanted to confirm that. Really quickly, before we get to our final recommendations, how long do you guys think you would each last in the Wasteland? And Shay, we'll start with you.
Maybe like 12 minutes, I think. Like a
12
solid
minutes tops,
12, like, yeah, man, these things that are happening, like I would be like, no, sir, you can't use spray paint in your mouth. Like, what are you doing?
Would you be like the Valhalla guys, just spraying?
No, man.
What a wonderful day.
No, I can't do that. That's not me, man. Like, I don't even know who I'd be.
12 minutes?
12 minutes.
13 minutes?
So you're born in this world, or are you already established?
The world turns to
this
shit.
happens
and then,
now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, like, dude, there's like do you not remember, like, there's like diseases, infections happening and stuff, like people's arms are cut off.
Is that a character name in this movie, by the way?
That could have been. Like, they have like
infections?
maggots like just crawling all over. Oh man, like, dude, our bodies are not built for that. Like, we get, Anthony, you and I start getting really sick when the leaves change color, man. Like,
yeah, that's true. The allergy, but there's no leaves. There's no leaves
exactly.
in the desert.
We're stepping out of this world. The right amount of sand just hits us. You and I are just like, we're just done.
Andy, how about you? How do you think you'd fare?
I'm gonna give myself a couple of years.
A couple of years.
I'm gonna be confident, and
I'm gonna come for you first, dude. I'm gonna gut you like a pig,
12 minutes.
Right away.
12 minutes.
But I die. I try to kill you.
You're a 12-minute man.
I die trying to killing you.
Damn.
What about you, Daniel?
I feel like I'd find a way just to be some type of like villain in this world, and then
dude,
someone
you'd
would
have
kill me.
nipple
Both of
clamps
you would
for
kill
sure.
me.
You would have nipple clamps for sure.
Definitely.
nose clamp and
Yeah.
the mask on the nether regions, man.
Yeah, that's you for sure, Daniel.
I mean, I can't.
Because you do that like on a
can't say
daily,
no.
not even like outside of
I've
this
been
movie.
preparing
Daniel.
myself.
Immortan Daniel.
Immortan Daniel. Yeah, I've been.
Don't
I've
check
been
behind one
preparing
of those
myself for this
doors.
world. No, don't do it. Do not do that. Let's get to our final recommendations for Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off.
This is a watch it. And if you can watch it in IMAX because it looks fantastic in IMAX. You'll love this movie. I would say you should know of the Mad Max world before going into it. So maybe not watch Fury Road, but maybe watch the previous Mad Max. So Mad Max, Road Warrior, and Thunderdome, just to understand this world if you're new to this franchise. But I think this is a fantastic film by George Miller. He's still doing it. He hasn't changed. He is, again, 79 years old. When I think of 79 years old, a lot of times directors lose their touch. He still has that touch. He is still doing it. And this movie's fantastic.
I'm right there with you. This is a watch it for me. Again, I'm going to put the little asterisks on it that make sure you know a little bit about Mad Max before you get into this world, because yes, this is an incredible feat of cinematic filmmaking and it demands you to witness, but it also, there's a little bit of required reading so you can kind of get a little sense of what you're getting into, because it is very weird, it is very wacky, but there's no doubt that it is just extraordinary and ferocious to watch it, and it really is a spectacle, and it really is such an incredible achievement for a director of not just George's age, but just for his repertoire of films, that he's able to give us a film like this. And like Anthony said, go check out it in IMAX, because not only does it look incredible, the sound of Furiosa is going to rock you, and not just Tom Hulkenberg's score, but the sound effects, and you'll feel it inside of you. Like my bones were shaking at some points of this film. It is really, really cool to see. So yeah, definitely watch it. Shahbaz, take us on home to Fury Road.
Watch it. If you enjoyed Fury Road, you're going to have a good time at this as well. Watch it in IMAX. I echo both these gentlemen's statements.
Thank you once again to our friends at Warner Brothers Pictures Canada for inviting us to watch Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Of course, you could check it out in theaters on May 23rd. It is playing everywhere. Go watch it. You got our recommendation to do so. Of course, if you like what we're doing here at the Movie Podcast, if you want to hear more interviews, reviews, discussions on all the latest movies and films, make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever podcast platform you're on, or if you're on YouTube. Stay here. We have some incredible episodes coming your way, and you do not want to miss it. Check out our show notes for everything you need to know and more. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.